Morning, guys. Out here in the high desert, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, and Buddy Pabouget. The other day I showed you this yucca, and you'll notice how much it's grown. It was right about in here when it first started, and now within maybe less than a week, a little bit over a week, it's already reached another whole 1.5 feet. Couche! I'm paying attention to you. Just because I'm yakking doesn't mean I'm not going to make you stay. So now we've got a little different budding pattern at the top, and so it's interesting to see that flower and change its budding pattern. I don't think it's going to get like this, where this budding flower pattern is when it's mature, right? That's an immature yucca that's over here. So we're going to go through probably a year or so of it doing that, right? Couche, Pabouget. Now then we've got the Joshua tree. The Joshua tree has got a clump of pods at the top there that's going to turn into flowers. And again, I think there's a male and female as well in these pattern of their evolution. I have to look into it. You might want to type in or do a search query on Joshua tree, life cycle of a Joshua tree, life cycle of a yucca, and then find out. I'll get into it, but I'm doing a lot more of my research and getting into my dog training stuff than I am that right now, but I will do that. Buddy, you're gonna stay there. We're gonna yak the screen a little bit today, so I'm gonna put this back in our viewing location. Here we go. Here's another one. Buddy, with me. See, he thinks he's gonna get away with me. Get up there, go on, you up, Couche, Pabouget. So here's one that was like the other one last week. This is kind of the early stages. Now let's see how far that shoots up in the next week or so. It's going to be like the one that we showed you over there, because that's where we started with the other one, that I was kind of amazed on how it was coming out. And now I see it developing into that other, right? Very high. Be interesting, because Mother Nature doing what it does, sometimes the males and females know that there's, they're looking for a male and a female, and they've got an evolution in regards to that male and female. And here's one here that's very low in the stage. You see how that's a little conical? Starting to grow. Very interesting. There's a lot of pretty life up here, and people don't realize the intricacies of it. Very neat. We'll come back and look at this in another week or so. And then you see the budding flowers going on with my little grove of yucca that's here. Really pretty. My Joshua trees. Very pretty view up here. All right, so I wanted to come in and have a little yak session. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna put it back to my viewing section. I'm gonna go up there now that I have a mic. I can actually talk to the screen and not have to worry about it. Put this away, and I want to have a little yak session going on. All right, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, and Buddy, Asi, Couche, up, yeah. Good. Up, yeah. Yeah, I know. I see you too. Good. Back up. Good. All right, buddy. Yep. You go free hunt. Go play. Go on, go play. All right, so today I kind of wanted to do a little yak session. I've done a write-up before in regards to my background, how I got started, and what it's online somewhere where I did a kind of a bio write-up. But I want to kind of go through that today on film. Buddy, no. Off. Get away from me. Go on, get. Good boy. Says, I want attention, Dad. Go on, get. I'm done with you. Go on, get. So when I first started was when I was a kid. I got my first dog at 12 years of age, and I knew what I wanted to do even before that. At about 8 years of age, I started showing interest through reading and through watching TV shows, Rin Tin Tin, whatever it could take. I love the whole infatuation of a dog, and it came from a very early imprint. I had a big old wiener dog, Basset Hound is what it was when I was a baby. And that Basset Hound I was always on, clinging on. And I don't remember this, but my folks told me about it. I do remember a vision of going into this doghouse and it being very nasty, all the hair and everything else, a doghouse out in the backyard, stinky coat. You're talking pet quality type of dog. My folks were normal folks out there trying to make a living as everybody else is, and they had this Basset Hound. And so I just loved Wimpy was the dog's name, Wimpy the Basset Hound. And then when Wimpy passed, I remember the pain involved with that. I was mortified as a child because of that. And I remember that nasty old doghouse. So this is imprinted in my head as a child, and I don't even know what age I was. I was a lot younger than about 8 years of age, and younger than that. It was one of the, toddler imprint that's still stuck in my little, maybe it's pictures I picked up, who knows, how you fabricate this parts of your life when you're a child, and is it pictures that you're looking at and you're talking to your folks over the years, and how do those memories get implanted in your head? I'll never know, but it's interesting. So at about 8 years of age, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a dog trainer, but I hadn't really, it hadn't gelled in my brain that I wanted to do it as a living. I just knew that I wanted to have a dog, as a child. That's all I cared about. So then I finally got my first dog at 12 years of age. Some foster folks that I was living with way out in the boonies, they were trying to keep me out of trouble, so I was on a 6-bedroom ranch house way out in the boonies, and this lady was a thoroughbred agent. She was actually, horses was her life. Her dad was one of the top trainers at the Hollywood racetrack. And so because of that, being out on the farm, we had all kinds of animals, horses, goats, chickens, chicken coop was off the side. We'd collect eggs every day. And this is way out in the boonies. This is an old ranch house. It was a 6-bedroom ranch house that went way back into the 30s and 40s for a very well-to-do land grant owner and the farmers back out in these areas that had this thousands of acres. We were a mile and a half away from anybody out on this dirt road, and our closest neighbor was about a mile away. And so I learned really, no more than that, probably 2 to 3 miles. To go visit and play with the neighbors' kids, we have to get on our horses and go ride over, and we did. We played horse tag and all kinds of stuff as kids. I was always on a horse and always doing the animals. I learned to drive by hauling hay out to the cows. The farmer had a big old bunch of straw hay that he had baled up, and he had just piles of it, in our front yard, actually, huge old pile of it. And he wanted to get rid of it, so it's roughage. So he said, let's feed it to the cows. So we started going out and feeding this daily to the cows, and he hired me to get in a truck and load that truck up. I think I was 12, 13 years old, loading this truck up with huge bales of hay, and loading this truck, and then going out and getting the cows to come to that hay. And that was a great way to train the cows to come in, because now if you wanted to do your branding and then neutering and everything else that they used to do, I don't know if they call neutering a cow, but chopping off a cow, they'd put him in the gate and tighten him down and come up and snap his nuts off and throw some salve on him, and just the stuff that you see in farming industry. It's just, I grew up with it. We used to actually raise pigs, believe it or not, and actually raise them and slaughter them for a little bit of a sideline on the animals that we had out there. I was in FFA, all that good stuff as a kid. It was really a cool thing to experience after I had been through so much in my life as foster homes and all that, and this was a foster home as well, but it was my imprint. She basically wanted me to go out and start learning to train horses. She was kind of pointing me in that direction to see if she could spark a fire, and I didn't like horses as much as I did dogs. It was just a different whole thing of getting in the middle of the saddle and communicating with that horse. Everything's got to be done through your body, and you can't see the eyes. You can't see the animal and relate to it head on, right? That being the case, I ended up being attracted to the dogs. And they ended up getting me a little Australian Shepherd from a farmer that was across the way that had a litter of puppies. Australian Shepherd cattle dog mix. I'm trying to think, it was a cattle dog, Queensland Heeler, I think is what she was mixed with. I named her Princess, and she was my first dog. And Princess was everything to me. And at the time, we were way out in the boonies, and we didn't have as much access to TV or any of that. And back then, you didn't have the internet. This was before the probably in the 70s. It was 75, 78, somewhere in there. And I was 12 years old, so I could go do the math if I really wanted to. But, all right, so I got this dog, and that's all I cared about. So I started reading books, going to the library. I was really a big book nerd. The library was a big friend of mine back then, and as a child, I used to love going to the library and reading. Somebody had implanted that in me, and it took off, and reading has always been a big part of my life, taking in knowledge from things. And so I ended up getting books and learning and studying how to train, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was just a child, and I started working with her, and I didn't know it at the time. I didn't feel the same way I felt when I got a little bit more bumps up, but I ended up taken off and going transition, I was back with my dad, and I took Princess with me with them, and I was no longer with that family. And got Princess, and she would sleep on my bed, and that's what got me thinking about doing this yak session, because I look back and I see all the dogs that I've got. Buddy's sitting over here underneath it in the shade as I yak. Over the years, Princess was my first dog. Then I had Sergeant, was a German Shepherd that I got about 16 years of age. There's a story behind him. I'll go ahead and go talking in him in another session, but Princess is who we're talking about now. It was my experimentation phase, and I knew at that point what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a dog trainer, and that's all I cared about. And so I had pointed myself towards becoming a professional dog trainer. And back then we didn't have a knowledge base, so I ended up just putting my energy into going out and taking people's dogs and training them, per se, if you could call it training. It's just being a child. And Princess was the one that I was doing my experimentation phase, is what I call it. So through the reading of the books that I read, and one of the big ones that was real popular back then was Keeler. William Kohler, or Keeler, however it's pronounced, K-H-O-L-E-R, I do believe, was a Hollywood trainer that wrote a book, and everybody started doing the same thing. It was avoidance and escape training, and everybody in the industry, we were doing the same thing. And this was our big thing. We didn't have the internet back then, so he was pretty much world famous because of that. And that became synonymous for how I trained back then. And I learned all my turns, right about turn, left-hand turn, all the stuff. And then I started experimenting. My whole thing, my brain went towards how many words can she pick up? How many hand signals and words can I put together? She was smart as hell. Australian Shepherds just are. A lot of times you see trainers in their YouTube videos, and they've got Australian Shepherds for a reason. They're like cutting through butter. They're very receptive to voice tone, body language, because they're trained, and their instinct, their genetic stamp is all about being very in tune with the handler that's telling them to go out and herd the sheep and herd the cattle, and they have to be in, and that's what they bred the dog to do. So the dog is probably, Australian Shepherds, I always tell people, are one of the easiest dogs to train. They're like cutting through butter as far as how smart they are, intelligent they are, and their ability to take a licking and keep on ticking is another thing. That Queens and Healer that was in Princess. As a child, looking back, I put her through hell. You know, a lot of anger and times that I'd come off on her, and I look back at it, and she took everything I gave her and then gave me change back. She was just an amazing dog. She did over 250 words with hand signals and commands that I got her to do, because I was into how many things can I teach her. And I called her my circus dog at one point, because I realized that this was all it was about with Princess. But she went everywhere with me. She slept on my bed. I built a box on a little moped that she rode all over town. And this is where I got my attention as a child, and to this day, that's why I don't need to compete. I don't need that pat on the back. I don't need that trophy. I don't need that ribbon, because my love and what I love to do is go out in public and show off. I've been doing it since I've been a baby, and getting that attention from the crowds is what I do. I'll go out and I'll work a dog, and people will drop their jaws, and I'll have a big, huge group of people, and I'm not shy about it at all. I've been doing it since I've been a baby. Getting attention and showing off is what I did. It's who I am as a trainer, and I love that aspect of it, and I still love it today. And that's one of the big reasons that I really don't feel the need to compete, because my competition is the public, educating, teaching, wanting to pass on my knowledge to them. But as I got going, I realized as I got really going with Princess that I had a God-given gift. I mean, God had given me a gift. And does that mean that you can't learn to train dogs? No. I always like to tell people I can get 1 in 10 people to feel what I call the gut feeling of dog training, and to be in tune with that animal. That it's everything. You know, that's what I love. You know, if I can get somebody to have that much enthusiasm and love for what I do, and I can pass that on, that's what floats my boat. You know what I mean? So, Princess was amazing. I used to run around with that moped, so sometimes she'd be on the ground, and I'd challenge her to see. I'd get that moped up to 45 miles an hour, and she was darn close right behind me. I think you could probably clock her at 35 easy on a regular basis. She jumped over everything, climbed trees, onto my shoulder. I got a thing, and I still use it to this day, of building trust with your animal, which is all of the agility that I do is about how I build confidence through my agility. And then my environmental. I wasn't as aware of it back then that I was doing environmental, because I took her everywhere. She was indoctrinated in the environment of a child, right? I took her everywhere. And so she I ate, breathe, and sleep with her, you know, as a child. She went everywhere. Everywhere you saw me, you saw Princess, you know. On the back of my moped running all over this little small town that I lived in. So then about 16 years of age, that's the story of Princess. And about 16 years of age was a whole nother story for a German Shepherd that I got that took me to the next level, and then I went towards bite work. So we'll talk about that the next time. But Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, loving what I do and trying to pass on as much as I can to the people that watch my videos, and hopefully those that aren't all about the digital magic and having music behind things and clipping and making things all good and telling a story with digital media is kind of a cool thing. I watch all those videos too, but I don't have that skill and I don't have that ability until I get somebody that's I get enough money in my business or whatever, I get built up that I can hire people to do that for me. It's probably not gonna. If you want that, go see Oscar. I thank you very much. Not that Oscar's a bad trainer, don't get me wrong. I'll talk to you later. Have a good day, guys.